What if you were the last human on Earth? You wake up. Silence. Not the peaceful kind, but a silence so dense it presses against your chest like gravity. No alarms, no honking cars, no hum of air conditioning. You walk outside and see nothing. No people, no movement, no signs of struggle. It's as if humanity vanished while you slept. Phones don't ring. The internet is eerily quiet. Cities stand intact, but empty, eerily preserved like a paused video. And somehow you are alone, the last human on Earth. It's not an alien invasion, no mushroom clouds or viral outbreaks, no warning signs. Just one morning, every other human being, 8 billion souls, gone without a trace. The concept isn't new. Stories from I Am Legend to The Quiet Earth have flirted with this chilling idea. But what if it really happened? What if, for reasons unknown, you became the sole carrier of the human story? Science doesn't offer many mechanisms for selective disappearance. A targeted cosmic anomaly? A quantum fluctuation that erased human consciousness? Unlikely. But let's suspend disbelief. The how is a mystery. The what now is your reality. And in that moment, history shifts. The species that built cities, wrote symphonies, and split atoms, now reduced to one lone survivor. You stand in the middle of Times Square, surrounded by giant screens replaying ads to no one, as pigeons circle above. It's apocalyptic, but not in flames, in stillness. You're not battling zombies or mutants, you're battling something far scarier, absolute solitude. And just like that, humanity's epic story narrows to a single thread, yours. But what happens next? How does the world respond when humanity disappears? Except for you? Let's explore the science behind the silence. The moment humanity disappears, the Earth exhales. Our absence triggers an immediate shift, not just socially, but physically. The world, long dominated by human activity, begins to change. Quickly. And in ways you wouldn't expect. Within hours, power grids around the world start failing. Electricity hums through wires no longer managed by technicians or software. Nuclear power plants automatically begin shutdown procedures. Fossil fuel plants grind to a halt as pressure builds without human oversight. Cities grow darker by the hour. In less than 48 hours, the global glow of human civilization fades from space. For the first time in over a century, the night sky returns in full, starlit, pristine, and overwhelming. You notice it as you stand on a rooftop in your city. The silence is now darker. No buzz of neon, no background noise of life. The stars feel too close, like they're watching you. Biologically, the human body is poorly adapted to complete isolation. We're wired for connection. Our brains rely on social feedback for everything from memory formation to emotional regulation. In solitary confinement studies, subjects began hallucinating after just a few days. You're not just alone in space, you're alone in perception. Your mind, over time, becomes your greatest threat. Nature, however, thrives. Without constant pruning and maintenance, plants begin invading sidewalks, rooftops, and highways. In just days, wild animals start venturing into human zones. Deer enter city parks. Coyotes trot down suburban streets. With no traffic, birds nest on freeway signs. Life returns, tentatively at first, then boldly. But for you, survival is suddenly a science experiment. Without access to restocked grocery stores, food becomes a top concern. Most perishables spoil within a week. Freezers shut down. Canned goods become gold. You begin raiding stores, not for toilet paper, but for calories and batteries. You're not just playing scavenger, you're now a field biologist, systems engineer, and survivalist rolled into one. And there's another problem: hygiene and health. You can't afford a broken leg or infected wound. In a world without doctors, even a stubbed toe becomes a potential death sentence. Hospitals remain stocked, but sterile silence and eerie blinking lights turn them into haunted cathedrals of what once was. But this is just the beginning. As the days stretch into weeks, the dominoes keep falling, and the Earth begins to reshape itself without us. Weeks pass. You've stopped expecting to see another face. The silence is now a companion, unnerving, but familiar. And the world, freed from human control, begins unraveling in unexpected ways. The most immediate chain reactions occur in infrastructure. Without maintenance, municipal water systems begin to fail. Pumps that once pushed water through thousands of miles of underground pipes shut down. Tap water dries up. Reservoirs stagnate. Toilets become useless ornaments of a past civilization. You turn to bottled water, scavenged from supermarkets, but eventually, even plastic runs out. Sewage treatment plants stop operating. Storm drains clog. Streets flood during rain. Urban areas begin to decay, not from fire or war, but from sheer neglect. Mold creeps through luxury condos. Rats and insects reclaim their underground kingdoms. Nature isn't hostile, it's indifferent. And in that indifference lies danger. Air travel ceases. Planes grounded mid-schedule sit frozen on tarmacs, slowly rusting. Ships drift unmanned at sea. Satellites, still orbiting, continue beaming signals to silent receivers. GPS still works, for now. But orbital decay and space debris begin their own quiet ballet. Without technicians correcting course, some satellites will eventually fall from the sky, burning out like mechanical shooting stars. Nuclear facilities present a darker threat. Most modern plants are built with automatic safety protocols. Pressurized water reactors can enter safe shutdown modes without human input. But long-term cooling still depends on electricity. If backup generators fail or fuel runs dry, meltdowns could occur within months. The ghost towns of Chernobyl and Fukushima offer grim previews: invisible danger, radioactive silence. And what of the planet itself? Without carbon emissions from billions of humans, air quality improves. Cities lose their smog blankets. CO2 levels begin to dip slowly. The Earth starts healing, but not evenly. Climate change, already in motion, doesn't stop overnight. Hurricanes, droughts, and extreme weather continue, legacies of our industrial age. And yet, there's something hauntingly beautiful. As you explore forests where wildlife now roams freely, you feel the planet exhaling. It's not post-apocalyptic chaos, it's ecological succession, a rebalancing. But amid this natural recalibration, you are still an anomaly, a relic, a biological outlier in a world that no longer needs you. And then it hits you. Survival isn't just about food or shelter anymore. It's about meaning. What do you do when you're the last witness to human history? Months slip by, seasons change, and with every rising sun, the Earth pulls a little farther away from the human era. You begin to notice the wild creeping in, not with fury, but with quiet persistence. Across North America, suburban neighborhoods turn green. Lawns transform into meadows. Ivy climbs the facades of shopping malls. In once bustling cities like Chicago or Atlanta, deer graze beneath rusting traffic lights. The air smells richer, less like smog, more like soil. Nature is not rebuilding what we left behind. It's replacing it. Domestic animals begin a grim reckoning. Pets left behind in apartments and backyards suffer first. Some escape and form feral packs. Dogs return to their wolfish instincts. Cats become apex micropredators. But many breeds, hyper-specialized by human breeding, don't last long. The Chihuahua does not inherit the earth. Farm animals fare no better. Without humans, cows and pigs don't know how to fend for themselves. Many die within weeks, vulnerable to predators and starvation. A few herds, especially in more rural areas, break free and adapt. Feral pigs become a real danger. You begin to carry a weapon, not to fight people, but to survive animal encounters. Meanwhile, the ecosystems we disrupted begin healing. Coral reefs, freed from ocean acidification and plastic influx, start a slow recovery. Fish populations rebound. Whales, long threatened by shipping traffic and sonar, travel in larger pods through quieter seas. In Africa, poaching ends overnight. Elephant herds, rhinos, big cats, they all thrive without our interference. But these aren't utopias. Ecosystems are chaotic, and without humans playing God, natural selection returns in full force. Invasive species spread without containment. Kudzu blankets the American South. Burmese pythons take over Florida wetlands. Rats and cockroaches explode in number before natural predators slowly catch up. You become a witness to Earth's reboot. It's awe-inspiring and lonely. You hike through Yellowstone, once crowded with tourists, now ruled by wolves and bison. You cross the Golden Gate Bridge alone, wind howling through steel. You also begin to wonder, what about plants we engineered? GMOs, seedless crops, ornamental hybrids. Many vanish, unable to reproduce. Our agricultural legacy, too, begins to fade. Nature reclaims space, but forgets our handprints. Yet everywhere you go, remnants of humanity remain. Graffiti, books, broken smartphones, silent churches, and empty schools. It's not just that humans are gone, it's that we were never meant to last this long without each other. And as the world becomes more wild, your struggle shifts from watching change to surviving within it. Now come the real tests: food scarcity, medicine, and the slow erosion of the technology you rely on. You're 6 months in now. The world feels bigger and somehow smaller. You no longer jump at the sound of creaking buildings or distant thunder. The fear has settled, replaced by a gnawing practicality. How do you survive in a world built for 8 billion when there's only one? The first crisis is food. You've scoured supermarkets for canned goods, protein bars, freeze-dried meals, anything that lasts. But expiration dates are creeping closer, and insects and rodents are catching on. Without refrigeration, perishables rot fast. You start learning to identify edible plants. You fish. You trap squirrels. You open old survival manuals and begin treating them like sacred texts. Gardening becomes essential. You clear out an abandoned greenhouse on the city's edge, planting tomatoes, lettuce, beans, anything with viable seeds. But it's not easy. Soil nutrients must be replenished. You have no fertilizer, no pesticides. You improvise with compost and hope. What you once bought for $2.99 now takes months of labor. Then there's medicine. Pharmacies are treasure troves, for a time. You collect antibiotics, painkillers, vitamins, but expiration looms, and you have no one to consult when you're sick. A toothache becomes a crisis. A twisted ankle could mean death. Every decision now carries weight. You begin hoarding medical textbooks. You teach yourself first aid. You practice stitching on pigskin from abandoned butchery classrooms. Technology is both a blessing and a ticking clock. Laptops, GPS devices, solar panels, they all work for now. But batteries degrade. Dust invades circuits. Software crashes. You salvage what you can, using solar power to charge tools, radios, even a drone or two. You try to keep the internet alive safe through local servers, but most websites are already unreachable. Cloud systems require maintenance that no one's performing. The digital world collapses bit by bit. Sanity becomes your most fragile resource. You talk to yourself. You leave messages on walls and mirrors. You pretend you're being recorded. Anything to feel observed, acknowledged. You begin documenting everything. Video diaries, notebooks, carvings in stone. You're not sure why. Maybe for someone in the future. Maybe just to stay sane. Isolation plays tricks. You hear voices in the wind. Sometimes you catch yourself laughing at old sitcoms echoing from a forgotten TV before the power cuts. You crave touch, debate befriending mannequins like a parody of Cast Away. You write letters to people who no longer exist. You start answering them. And then the question emerges, unshakable and sharp. If you're the last human alive, is survival even the goal anymore? Or is it something else? Legacy, purpose, transformation? By now, survival has become routine. Brutal, exhausting, but manageable. You've adapted in ways you never imagined. Yet a deeper question begins to haunt your days. Is surviving enough? Or should you start rebuilding something more? You begin to think long term. Could you engineer a way to restart the species? Cloning, cryogenics, artificial wombs? The thought seems absurd, but in labs once reserved for bioengineers, you find fragments of possibility. Preserved embryos, gene editing kits. You're no scientist, but desperation makes you one. You study CRISPR manuals like they're sacred scrolls. You map out the human genome on walls lined with dust and cobwebs. But even if you could engineer life, could you raise it? What kind of childhood would a lab-grown child have in a world without society, teachers, music, or friends? Would they be human in the same way you were? Or something else entirely? A new species, born of loneliness and artificial design? You turn your focus outward. Underground data centers hold digital backups of human culture, books, films, music, scientific archives. You begin preserving them more deliberately, creating a library of the last. You print essential knowledge, agriculture, medicine, engineering, philosophy. Paper, it turns out, is more durable than you thought, especially when stored properly. This becomes your cathedral, your reason. Technology, meanwhile, becomes both your ally and captor. You learn to repair solar panels, build crude wind turbines, restore defunct generators. The world had been on the brink of renewable energy. Now you're its last practitioner. You adapt power usage to the sun and wind. At night, you read by LEDs salvaged from office lamps. You also attempt communication. Using old satellite relays, you transmit messages in every language you can remember. If you're out there, I'm alive. Days pass, weeks, silence. But you keep trying. Not for them, for you. Politically and economically, there's nothing left. No nations, no currency, no laws. Yet you feel the strange urge to create a system anyway. You write your own constitution. You assign symbolic value to resources, out of habit or perhaps hope. You carve faces into stones and call them citizens. You hold imaginary debates. Madness? Maybe. Or maybe it's memory, echoing through your need for order. Your priorities change. Once, survival meant calories and shelter. Now it means continuity. Can you leave behind a world worth inheriting, even if no one ever does? And then, just when you've begun to accept your fate as the final caretaker, the world throws something new at you. A mystery, a sign, a discovery that challenges everything you thought you knew. It starts subtly, a light in the distance, faint, rhythmic, unmistakably artificial. You spot it one evening while scanning the horizon from the roof of a decaying office tower. Not lightning, not a fire, a pulse. You freeze, heart racing. For months, the world has offered no surprises. Now, a blinking anomaly. In the dark, could it be a glitch? Or could it be someone? You set out at dawn, supplies packed, rifle slung, radio buzzing with static. The journey is long and uncertain. Roads have cracked, bridges collapsed. Wildlife controls entire suburbs now. But your purpose burns like fuel. You are not alone. After days of travel, you find the source, a solar-powered emergency beacon. Still running after all this time, sending out a distress signal. But it's old, automated, pre-collapse. No sign of life. Just a device doing its job long after the hands that activated it turned to dust. Disappointment crashes in, heavier than before. But then, something else. In a nearby building, a message, handwritten, sealed in a glass jar. If you're reading this, I made it to the observatory. Heading north. March 18th. It's dated only 2 months ago. Shock floods your body. You read it again. And again. You're not the last. Someone else survived. Maybe more than one. You're not an ending. You're a chapter. Your mind races with questions. Who are they? How did they survive? Why didn't you find each other sooner? You track every clue. Footprints, scattered belongings, markings on the wall. It feels like a scavenger hunt stitched with hope. At night, you replay the timeline in your head. Did they leave the message for you? Was it meant for anyone? Are they still alive? What if they've already moved on? Worse, what if they didn't survive? You reach the observatory, a windswept facility atop a mountain range. Empty. But someone's been here recently. Canned food, blankets, books arranged meticulously. A note scribbled in haste. Too dangerous to stay, heading west. Will leave signs. Suddenly, the narrative shifts. This isn't just your story anymore. It's a pursuit, a pilgrimage. You're not just surviving now. You're searching. A new layer of tension emerges, the thin thread of human connection, dangling just out of reach. And with that comes fear, not of death, but of loss. What if you find them, only to lose them again? What if your sanity breaks under the weight of that hope? But even if the trail goes cold, one truth remains. You're no longer waiting to die. You're moving toward life, toward possibility, toward rediscovery. The pursuit westward changes you. You're no longer wandering for meaning. You're searching with intent. Each town you pass holds traces, carved symbols on trees, solar batteries neatly arranged, and messages scratched into walls with dates and arrows. Whoever they are, they want to be found. But more importantly, they believe there's something worth building. And so do you. Your journey brings you to a hydroelectric dam, still operational thanks to gravity and good engineering. It's a miracle of human ingenuity, humming softly against the silence of a collapsed world. You decide to stay, temporarily at first, but then you start making plans. It has water, power, land. It's defensible. It could be something more than a shelter. It could be a beginning. You name it, Outpost 1. Rebuilding civilization isn't about skyscrapers or smartphones. It's about systems. You plant more crops. You dig irrigation channels. You document everything. You create rituals. Morning inspections, evening journals, maintenance logs. These small acts of structure give shape to the void. You even begin building a school, not for students you don't have yet, but for the idea that learning must continue. Chalkboards, shelves, printed lessons from salvaged archives. You paint a mural on the wall, humanity as it was, as it is, and as it could be. And then, a voice. You catch it one evening while scanning radio frequencies, faint, broken, but undeniably human. Repeat, Outpost 3, survivors, south. You leap from your chair, fumbling with dials. Static returns, but it doesn't matter. You heard it, proof. Others exist, not just the one you've been tracking, but possibly an entire group. You prepare to leave, but not before securing Outpost 1, a beacon for any who might stumble upon it. You leave food, maps, and your own recorded message. You are not alone. I went south. If you hear this, come find us. Now the question isn't if civilization will return, it's how. What kind of world do you build when the old one failed so spectacularly? Do you recreate nations, currencies, borders? Or do you forge something entirely new? Smaller, slower, wiser? Rebuilding also means reconciling with the past. You visit ruins of museums and libraries, collecting artifacts and knowledge, not just to remember, but to warn. You vow to teach future generations not just how we lived, but why we nearly didn't survive. And as you march toward the unknown, heart pounding with hope and uncertainty, you realize the human story didn't end, it just hit pause. And now, it's playing again. Weeks pass. You follow the faint radio signal across scorched plains and through reborn forests. The world feels younger, like it's beginning again, without permission, without apology. And then, finally, you see it, smoke from a controlled fire, solar panels glinting in the sun, and voices. They stare as you emerge from the trees, part legend, part ghost. You're embraced like a long-lost sibling, tears mixing with disbelief. You meet the voice from the radio and others like them, survivors scattered from different corners of the world, Converging in this fragile pocket of life, you are not the last. You never were. And now, you are many. Together you begin to rethread the torn fabric of civilization. But everything is different. The old world, with its cluttered politics and endless consumption, feels like a fever dream. Now, your focus is narrow but vital. Food, shelter, medicine, learning, connection. You trade stories, skills, seeds. Languages blend, roles evolve. There are no nations anymore, only people, bonded by experience. You decide to preserve what mattered. In a massive cave system nearby, you etch human history into stone. Art, mathematics, philosophy, even mistakes. A modern Lescaut. You record voices reading Shakespeare, singing lullabies, explaining relativity. You want the future to know not just what humanity was, but why. You also look skyward. In a rusted observatory, you and the others repair an old telescope. Night after night, you scan the stars, not for salvation, but for solidarity. Maybe someone, somewhere, is watching. Maybe Earth is not the only planet to rebuild. Maybe we're not alone, in more ways than one. But most powerful of all is the shift in your identity. You're no longer a survivor. You're a founder of a new era. You carry the memories of billions who came before. Not just their technologies or buildings, but their dreams, their flaws, their hopes for something better. You hold a child for the first time, born into this quiet world, into a future unburdened by the noise that once drowned us. You whisper to them, "You are the beginning." And so the legacy of this catastrophe isn't just survival, it's transformation. A civilization that was almost lost has become something smaller, wiser, and perhaps more beautiful. Yet one final question remains. What will this new humanity do with its second chance? Will we remain earthbound, or will we reach for the stars? The night sky stretches above you, vast, silent, eternal. But now, it doesn't feel empty. It feels like a frontier again. Humanity stands at the beginning, not the end. The collapse has carved us down to our essence, resilient, adaptive, curious. And from that foundation, we begin to imagine again. Not grand skyscrapers or megacities, but questions. Questions that look outward, upward. You and your new community begin reconstructing knowledge. Old radio telescopes are reactivated, and the stars speak once more in their cryptic language of light. Satellites still orbit, waiting for voices to respond. And you respond, not just to Earth, but to the cosmos. A signal is prepared, deliberate and humble. A message to the stars. We are here, still, again. Space, once a domain of billion-dollar budgets and bureaucracies, now becomes a shared dream. Maybe not for this generation, maybe not for the next, but one day someone will build a rocket again. Not for conquest or profit, but because the human story was never meant to be limited to one planet. Closer to home, Earth itself becomes a sacred responsibility. You no longer take forests for granted, or rivers, or bees. Every seed planted is an act of hope. Every structure built is designed with balance, not domination. Climate science, once tangled in politics, now guides your decisions like a compass. Because this time, you know what happens when you forget. You establish archives not just to remember the fall, but to remember why rebuilding took courage. You teach children to question, to protect, to dream. You pass down the old myths and the new truths. Humanity's story didn't end when the silence began. It restarted with a whisper and grew into a vow. Never again. Some days are still hard. Loss lingers. But the silence that once crushed you now hums with purpose. The laughter of children, the debates around campfires, the tapping of keys rebuilding a digital archive. These are the new sounds of civilization. And finally, you climb that same tower where it all began. Now overgrown, but still standing. You look out over the land, not empty, but alive. A world that once fell quiet is speaking again. We were never just survivors. We are storytellers, engineers, artists, builders, and now we are stewards of a second chance. What would you do if you were the last human on Earth? Would you endure, rebuild, transform? Or would you become the bridge between what was and what could be? Humanity's silence would be deafening, but its return could be extraordinary. What kind of world would you build from the ashes? Let us know your vision for a second chance. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this made you think differently about our place in the universe, don't forget to like and subscribe.